Hey everyone, here's part 2 of the part 1 practice. So using the trend line, how many students are left after 5 years? I'm going to go to 5 years, go all the way up till I hit the line and go over. And then you'll see that it's slightly short of 30. So best approximate is 28 students, which is the closest to the volume of the cone. Now I would go on the reference sheet, I would look for volume of the cone, and I would write down volume equals 1/3 pi r squared. I'm going to plug in my radius. My radius is always from the center of the circle to the outer edge, so that is 5 to the second power. And my height is always from that circular base to the top vertex, so that's 8.7. Now this number right here, the 10, is called the slant height. We don't use it in our formula. So I'm going to take the 1/3 multiplied by pi, multiplied by 5 to the second power, multiplied by 8.7. When I type that into my calculator and hit enter, I'm going to get 227.7654. And when I look at my choices, it's to the nearest tenth, so I'm looking at that 6. And it's going to take my 7 and turn it into an 8. So it is choice number 1. For 24, it says, which graph shows the line of best fit for the scatter plot? So the best line of fit is the line that goes through the middle of the dots. So choice 2 would be the best linear fit. 25 says, find the value of x to the nearest tenth. The two triangles are similar. Since I know that they're similar, I know that we could set up a proportion because the sides are proportional in similar triangles, or any type of similar figure. So I'm looking for n, which is right here. So I'm going to look for the corresponding side in the other triangle, which is 5 right here. Now, my next corresponding side is that 4.5 and the 3. So once I have my corresponding sides, I'm just going to set up a proportion. So I'm going to say 5 right here. Oops. 5 over n is equal to 3. Notice how I went back to the left triangle because I started with the left triangle, over 4.5. Now from here, once I have my proportion, I could cross multiply. 3 times n is 3n, and I'm going to take 5 and multiply it by 4.5. to get 22.5. Now from here, I'm just going to divide out by 3, and my n is going to be 7.5, which is choice number 2. For 26, it says Jaden's weekly earnings are described by the equation y equals 5x plus 80, where x is the number of iPhones he sold. If Jaden earned $400 in 1 week, how many iPhones did he sell? So the 6, the 64, the 1,580, and the 76 all represent x, which is the number of iPhones. Now, if he's only making 400 in 1 week, probably can't be choice number 3. Doesn't make sense, but let's just show it algebraically. So 400 is the money, which is y, is equal to 5x plus 80. Now to get rid of the 80, because it's being added to the 5x, we're going to use inverse operations and subtract it over. So I have 320 equals 5x. To get rid of the 5 that's being multiplied, I'm going to divide out. We're going to get x equals 64, which is choice number 2. For 27 says, which sequence of transformations maps 1 to 2, then 2 to 3? So when I look at 1 to 2, I'll notice that the orientation is the same, but C started here and then ends here. Now, it wouldn't be a reflection or rotation. You'll notice that we did shift it over and then bring it down. So I know it's going to be a translation first. Now to go from 2 to 3, you'll notice that this bump out is the same distance from the y-axis as this point right here. You'll notice that the orientation is changed, even though it's kind of hard to read. This is A, C, B. When I go clockwise, and when I start at A and go clockwise, it's BC. So the orientation, the way that the letters are written is different, which means it was a reflection. So first we brought it to the left and down, and then we reflected it over the y-axis. And then for 28, we have solve for x. Now we have variables on both sides, so I'm going to start off by taking this x right here and bringing it over to the other side with that 4.41. So I'm going to do 4.41 minus 1, which gives me 3.41. Bring down my 4.83 plus 3.41x equals 11.65. Because I chose to bring the x to the left, I want my constants, which is just those numbers with the decimals, over to the right-hand side. So I'm going to take my 4.83, use inverse operations, and subtract it over. So I have 3.41x equals 6.82. Now to get rid of the 3.41 that's being multiplied by the x, I'm going to divide out to the other side and make sure I'm typing in the 6.82 because it was there first. Divide by 3.41 and my x is going to be equal to 2. And then lastly, to conclude the multiple choice, I have another solve an equation. So this time I have parentheses. I'm going to take my 4/5, multiply it by my 5. So 4 ABC 5 times 5, I get 4x. Whoops. I'm going to take my 4/5, multiply it by -10. So 4 ABC 5 multiplied by -10, I get -8 equals 8. Add over the 8 to the other side. We have 4x equals 16. Divide by 4, and x is equal to 4.